September 2nd, a US drone fires a missile at this Venezuelan boat. 11 people on board, all killed. The White House says these were terrorists smuggling drugs. Venezuela calls it a heinous crime. September 15th, a second Venezuelan boat is hit. 3 people killed. The US warning it is hunting drug traffickers.
In the shimmering expanse of the Caribbean Sea, where the horizon blurs the line between paradise and peril, President Donald Trump has ignited a campaign that feels ripped from the pages of a geopolitical thriller, one where missiles replace handcuffs and drug lords become designated enemies of the state. Just days ago, on October 18, 2025, Trump revealed a U.S. Navy strike that obliterated a semi-submersible drug sub slipping out of Venezuelan waters, laden with fentanyl and cocaine bound for America's streets. This wasn't a routine bust. It was the 6th such lethal operation since early September, a barrage that has sunk vessels, claimed at least 29 lives, and, for the first time, left survivors in U.S. custody too. Men from Ecuador and Colombia, now held on a Navy warship as the world debates their fate.
But what is clear is the US military machine spinning up. Warships that for weeks have been mobilizing and moving towards Venezuela on and underwater. Trump has explicitly threatened to attack Venezuela.
Trump's Truth Social post cut through the diplomatic fog like a drone's whine. Under my watch, the United States of America will not tolerate narco-terrorists trafficking illegal drugs by land or by sea. Declassified footage showed the craft erupting in a fireball, a homemade behemoth capable of hauling 3 tons of poison vanishing in seconds. But as the echoes of that explosion fade, a deeper storm brews, one of legal quagmires.
The US and Venezuela are not friends. Trump has openly accused the Venezuelan government as being infiltrated by terrorist organizations, to the point where, effectively, the head of state is the head of a terrorist organization. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, an indicted narco-terrorist.
International fury, and whispers that this is less about drugs and more about toppling a regime, turning the turquoise waves into a battlefield for American hegemony. Picture the sequence unfolding like a high-seas chess match, each move more audacious than the last, escalating from shadow operations to public spectacles that dominate headlines and social feeds alike. It began on September 1 when U.S. forces zeroed in on a speedboat tied to the notorious Tren de Aragua gang, a Venezuelan syndicate infamous for extortion, human trafficking, and cocaine runs. Trump hailed the strike as a preemptive masterstroke, claiming it neutralized 11 suspects mid-shipment to U.S. shores, their vessel reduced to debris in international waters. Days later, on September 6, a narco sub from the Dominican Republic met a similar end, though mercifully without fatalities that time. The rhythm intensified. September 19 brought the sinking of another mystery craft. 3 souls lost to the depths. Late September or early October saw 2 more subs vaporized, tallying 9 deaths in quick succession. October ramped up the drama. On the 3rd, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, in his self-styled role as Secretary of War, announced a drone hit that erased 4 aboard a boat brimming with narcotics, potent enough to kill 25 to 50,000 people. 11 days on, October 14, Trump himself dropped footage of a missile eviscerating a speedboat, claiming 6 male narco-terrorists affiliated with a terrorist outfit perished without a scratch on American forces. And then came the latest, on October 16-18, where the semi-sub's crew faced annihilation, 2 dead in the blast. The survivors airlifted into limbo, interrogated as unwitting symbols of an undeclared war. Across these raids, the Pentagon parades grainy videos of infernos at sea. Yet the devil's in the details withheld. No cargo manifests, no victim dossiers beyond the blanket slur, narco-terrorists. No independent eyes to verify the intel sparking these firestorms. At the core of this relentless assault pulses Trump's reimagining of the war on drugs, not as a police chase, but a full-spectrum military crusade against narco-terrorism. Since storming back into the White House in January 2025, he's branded outfits like Tren de Aragua and the shadowy Cartel of the Suns, allegedly puppeteered by Maduro loyalists in Venezuela's military and intel ranks, as foreign terrorist organizations, elevating street-level smugglers to the pantheon of al-Qaeda. A Pentagon memo to Congress earlier this year laid it bare. These groups groups ignite an armed conflict, rendering traffickers unlawful combatants, stripped of Geneva Convention niceties, ripe for strikes, sans arrests. Secretary of State Marco Rubio amplified the war cry on X after the most recent hit, vowing to dismantle a designated narco-terrorist organization with more firepower on deck. Trump, ever the showman, teased terrestrial extensions during an October 5 speech at the U.S. Navy's 250th bash aboard the USS Harry S. Truman, hinting at land incursions against Venezuelan cartels. Bolstering this blitz is a formidable armada, 10,000 troops under Southern Command prowling the region, guided missile destroyers slicing the swells, F-35s thundering overhead, a nuclear sub ghosting beneath, and B-52s on ominous flybys that have Caracas twitching. The fentanyl hook tugs at heartstrings. U.S. brass fingers, Venezuelan corridors as lifelines for the opioid scourge, claiming over 100,000 American lives yearly, while a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head, doubled in August, injects personal venom into the vendetta. For all its thunder, this doctrine crashes against a reef of legal and ethical tempests, with detractors branding the strikes as rogue vigilantism masquerading as justice. Ex-military attorneys shred the rationale as threadbare, insisting it flouts war law basics. Suspected smugglers aren't barreted soldiers, and kill shots demand exhaustion of capture options. The United Nations didn't mince words last month, slamming the ops as extrajudicial executions, breaching human rights covenants. International law does not allow governments to simply murder alleged drug traffickers. Amnesty International and UN rapporteurs pile on, decrying the opacity and the peril of normalizing drone death for non-state foes. Stateside, the chorus swells. Why skip the seize and arrest playbook of yore? Why flaunt Blaze videos but bury proofs like haul inventories or casualty IDs? One September 10 fiasco, a boat veering wildly post-US flyby, pummeled even after crippling, got airbrushed from Trump's highlight reel. Congress flirted with reins via a war powers push from Senators Adam Schiff and Tim Kaine, aiming to slam brakes on unauthorized Caribbean blasts. But it sputtered in the Senate last week, leaving Trump's leash long. The administration's retort? Self-defense under a non-international armed conflict. Banner, per a secret directive. Trump inked last month, greenlighting Pentagon task forces to pulverize cartels. Yet skeptics spy a slight. No congressional nod for trendy Aragua hostilities. No precedent for self-defense nuking drug runners. And indictments against the gang, spotlighting U.S. soil crimes like murder for hire and meth peddling, not Venezuelan exports. Venezuela's riposte thunders with indignation and iron, casting the strikes as gringo gunboat diplomacy veiled in anti-narc lingo. Maduro, scoffing at narco ties, rallies his cadre against a campaign of lies, eyeing regime swap and oil heists. His nation's vast reserves, a perennial U.S. itch. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez briefed brass last week on Washington's fabricated war pretext for boots-on-ground invasion, while National Assembly head Jorge Rodriguez corralled global scribes to torch USA, yarns as invasion fodder, not truth quests. UN envoy Samuel Moncada leveled the charge in a scorching sit-down, America's loosing a bloodthirsty killer in the Caribbean, scripting conflict to mask aggression. Kin of the fallen add raw anguish. A Trinidadian dad's probe into his son's death in an early strike. Families in Port of Spain howling for guilt proofs amid fears. Their fisherman kin were misfired collateral. On X, Venezuelan allies and diaspora ignite with empire war crimes, screeds, clamoring for UN shields as Maduro masses troops in Caracas, slums like Patere, bracing for spillover. The shockwaves ripple far beyond the flotilla graveyards, fracturing alliances and stoking a hemispheric tinderbox. China, slurping Venezuelan crude as Maduro's lifeline amid USA. Sanctions gutting Caracas's coffers dropped a pointed October 17 barb. Decry external interference. Stick to multilateral busts over solo salvos. Beijing's maiden jab signals steelier Sino-Venezuelan welds, a counterweight to Trump's squeeze. Russia chimes in with de-escalation pleas. Its patron role strained. Colombia, birthplace of one survivor, waltzes a tightrope, juggling narco-pacts with invasion jitters. Trinidad and Tobago's citizen death inquiry spotlights the human shrapnel, as the detainees dangle in diplomatic purgatory. U.S. trials, extraditions, or hushed repatriations. Trump floated shipping them home. October 19, a nod to optics amid the outcry. Across X's fevered forums, the saga splinters into ideological infernos, the Caribbean morphing into a meme war coliseum. Trump diehards lionize the blasts as strategic haymakers versus a poison invasion. OSINT sleuths pixel, peeping strike clips for surgical nods. Left flanks howl, oil war, smokescreen, drawing Iraq-Libya parallels, with conspiracy webs fretting survivor snags as recon for soil assaults, or SOCOM's brass ouster, its chief quitting amid the fusillade, as mutiny murmurs. One viral thread dubs it the drug war's atomic dawn, flashpoint gamble, or must-have deterrent. Echoes of past interdictions haunt the discourse. The Coast Guard's NAB and TAG era yielding to this missile era, while quips fly on Maduro's 50M price tag, bounty or buyout. Broader strokes paint fentanyl's toll. 70,000 overdose ghosts yearly, as Trump's righteous spur. Yet doubters decry the Venezuelan skew. Why not Miami docks or Pacific ports if purity reigns? As October 21 breaks with survivors stewing on that gray steel behemoth, Maduro drilling defenses, and Trump scanning horizons, maybe even Venezuelan turf, these ops teeter on conflict's razor edge. Fentanyl's domestic carnage birthed this beast, but its Venezuelan fixation fuels regime, change suspicions, blurring cop and robber lines into warlord writs. Diplomacy flickers faintly, back-channel nudges from Brazil and the Dominican Republic, whispers of CARICOM mediation, even Rubio's off-record feelers to Caracas intermediaries. Yet history whispers caution. Trump's bold strokes birthed Abraham. Accords abroad, but January 6 scars at home. Maduro's clung to power through sanctions and street fire. One errant shot, one botched boarding, and the gentle Caribbean churns to war's froth. For now, the waves lap at a fragile peace, but in this powder keg passage, where narcos navigate narco states and superpowers script their showdowns, the next dawn could dawn bloodier. Trump's gambit: crush the cartels, cow the caudillo, reclaim the seas for the stars and stripes. But in the shadow of those sinking hulks, the true peril glimmers. Not the drugs afloat, but the dominoes teetering toward topple, threatening to drag a hemisphere into the abyss. Will cooler heads chart a truce? Or will the fire next time consume all? The sea, silent witness, waits.